All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us, younger brothers. And peace and blessing and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakakwadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful leg, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Shai. All right, and what I want to get into with this lesson, so now I'm back off a lesson done by the beloved elder brother, Yasha Wamba, all right, the head brother out of the GMS Dallas camp. And he did a lesson going into speak victory. Speak victory, man. All right, because we come from, a society, where, Esau and his enchantments, especially amongst the tribes, he pushes low self-esteem. All right, he pushes self-doubt. It's a culture. You go into nigga culture, it's about, people tearing each other down. It's very toxic, man. But as we come back to who we are, all right, in the truth, man, our confidence comes from our power. We're connected back to our power source. And within that power source, there's confidence, man. So as we come to the truth, man, the Lord is all about us, because faith is speaking victory. Part of faith is speaking victory, man. We really believe, man. We got to believe in the victory, and that this nigga loses, man. Esau loses, man. Okay? When you look at King David, and how he looked at Goliath, King David didn't look at Goliath like everyone else looked at Goliath. King David was looking at Goliath through the eyes of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. King David understood the power that he served. Okay? So Goliath was nothing in the eyes of King David. Okay? Because even before he was King David, when he was just David, okay, he had the courage of the king. Okay? Even before he was crowned king, where he began to operate and move like a king, man. Okay? So before we're actually joint heirs, man, hey, we should speak victory. We should live victory, man. We should live like we're joint heirs with Yahweh Shai already. Not in the sense of pompous and clout and, pride. No, in responsibility and in confidence, man. Okay? Not in false pride. Okay? But in confidence, because our confidence comes from our power, not from within us. So when King David, when he went against Goliath, man, he was full of confidence in his power. He was speaking victory before the battle. King David was speaking victory before the battle. Matter of fact, let's get that account. Since I'm speaking on it. Nah, man, we here to speak victory, man. We here to live victory, man. That's why this thing should be deadly serious, man. Brothers, we've been given a heavy assignment. We've been given a privileged assignment, man. How serious should we take this thing, man? And nobody's gonna take this serious for us, man. The people around us will never understand how serious this is, what we're a part of. Okay? It's for us to understand and execute. Okay? So when you go into, what is that? Is it 1 Samuel 17? I want to jump to the point. All right? So this is 1 Samuel 17. Because everyone else was speaking doubt. You go into King Saul, all right, and the men of Israel, they were speaking doubt. When David, wanted to take on the challenge, they immediately began to speak doubt. But King David, he never wavered, man. He knew he had this nigga, man, because of the Lord. Just like with Esau today, man. We should know we got this nigga because Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. You see? 1 Samuel 17, and I started at 31. It says, it's the NLT, it said, then David's question was reported to the king Saul, and the king sent for him. Don't worry about this Philistine. David told Saul, I'll go fight him. Okay? So King David coming there with great confidence, swagged up. All right, look, don't worry about Goliath, man. I got him. I heard what he been saying. And see what gave David confidence is he heard Goliath, all right, blaspheming the Most High. Okay? And when King David heard that, he knew he had him. Just like now, we're seeing Esau committing the greatest blasphemy ever against Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai, trying to replace the Most High with technology. Okay? Saying AI is a god, science is a god. And hey, he threw. Just off blasphemy alone, man. Okay? Esau defeated himself, man. You know, so we should be speaking and living victory in these last days, man. Our little personal situations, man. Look, the more we see privacy happening, man, you know, me personally, man, the more privacy unveils and the more, you know, hey, the Lord opens up, man. You know, in my personal day-to-day, man, hey, my little, whatever things I got going on, that shit don't even matter. It fade to the back. It don't even pick up anymore, man. It don't even register anymore like that. Okay? When you go to verse 33, it says, "Don't be ridiculous," Saul replied. "There is no way you can fight the Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been the man of war, all right, since his youth." See, Saul was Goliath. He couldn't see past Goliath. Okay? He was going into Goliath's resume. He's been the man of war since his youth. Just like Esau, he got a resume. You know, he's the mightiest military in the earth. Nobody has ever did this, and most wealthiest empire, and this and that. Damn that nigga accolades, man. Okay? Damn some goddamn Esau accolades, man. Okay? And I'm looking at his resume, you know, I'm into it, you know, this history and, you know, the geopolitics, man. I'm looking at this nigga resume. It's really not that impressive, man. When you really pull this nigga resume up, it's really not that impressive like that. Okay? He's been able to project a lot of power, you know, and he has capabilities that no other nation has ever has. Okay? And saying all that, you know, the Lord gave him, you know, a time for him to dominate. Okay? But even in that, man, just really looking at him, man, you know, it's not super impressive like that. I'm not impressed by the shit. You know, a quadrillion-dollar military, you know, and you look at his resume, Iraq, Afghanistan, you know, what you got? The Korean Wars, you know, Venezuela, you see, you know, Vietnam, okay, Syria, Libya, you know, when you really look at his resume, World War I, World War II, they didn't do it by themselves. You know, Russia helped a lot, you know, to get those victories for, you know, the Western powers in World War I and II. You know, when you go into it, but you know, that's another topic. But damn, you know, just look at this nigga resume, man. You know, it's okay at best. Okay, for him to have all this goddamn money and military power. Okay, but at the end of the day, it don't matter if he had whooped every country ass at the same time. The fact is, the Lord say he gonna fall, he gonna fall. That's all we need to know. We ain't even gotta go into the details of, you know, this war, that war. The fact that the Lord said he gonna fall, and the fact that this nigga is blaspheming the Most High, he done. Okay, so let's go here. This 1 Samuel 17 and 33. It says, "And Saul said to David." It said 33. "Don't be ridiculous," Saul replied. "There is no way you can fight the Philistines and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been the man of war since your youth." But David persisted. "I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goat," he said. "When a lion and bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears. I do it to this pagan Philistine." Okay? I read it again. It says, "And I do it to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living power." So King David knew the fact that he defied the armies of the living power, he was done. He had offended the Most High. Esau has offended the Most High, so his resume don't matter. Okay? What this nigga got, what he's capable of, his little capabilities. Our power gave this nigga the capabilities. Okay? Our power gave this nigga the capabilities. The power we serve gave Esau his capabilities, man. Okay? We gotta really meditate on these things and put it into perspective, man. Okay? We don't want to add to Esau hype train. He hype himself up enough, man. Okay? And like I say, man, hey, I'm that nigga biggest hater, man. And I ain't been this year. I ain't been impressed with nothing. I'm looking at this nigga highlight tape for 2026, and it's been trash. Okay, in every category. All right, false flags. Okay, crisis actors, war, propaganda. You know, Jake. You know, Jake running through the White House. You know, trying to shoot Trump, and you know, you go into it, man. But you look at this nigga 2026 highlight reel. This is not nothing special, man. Okay, only thing he got left is to bully civilians. Okay, he gonna use this quadrillion-dollar military to bully, all right, a dumbed down American citizens full of Taco Bell, okay, and goddamn Bud Lights. You see, and then he's gonna mandate the C-hip, and he gonna get his ass packed up, man. Okay, so it says, the Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. Saul finally consented. All right, go ahead. And he said, and may the Lord be with you. Then Saul gave David his armor, a bronze helmet, and the coat of maul. David put it on, strapped the sword over it, and took a step or two to see what it was like, for he had never worn such thing before. He says, I can't go in these, he protested to Paul. I'm not used to them. So David took them off again, and he didn't need all that armor. Just like we don't need high-tech military equipment. You see, the scriptures say the Lord going to make the creature a weapon. The Lord's going to make us a threshing instrument with sharp teeth. The Lord's going to use us as a battle axe, man. You know, and that show more power anyway, man. When you don't have weaponry, you become the weapon. Okay, they show more power anyway, man. That's how the Lord gonna show his power through his men in these last days, man. And then that ultimate showcase of power, which is Yahweh Shai. Okay? It says he picked up 5 smooth stones, a screen, and put them into his shepherd's bag. Then, armed only with his shepherd's staff and sling, he started across the valley to fight the Philistine. Goliath walked out toward David with his shield bearer ahead of him, sneering in the contempt at this ruddy-faced boy. He said, am I a dog? He roared at David, that you come at me with a stick? And he cursed David by the names of his gods. Come over here and I give your flesh to the birds and wild animals. Goliath yielded. Yeah, and Esau is he talking all this madness, and like that nigga Stephen Miller. You know, he talking all that BS at Charlie Kirk, funeral, and, you know, these Edomites talk about what they gonna do, and, you know, anti this and anti that, and when they gonna roll, and, you know, and you can imagine what they're saying behind the scenes, what they want to do to us, you know. So Goliath is talking about what he gonna do, and, you know, how he's gonna have his way with David, and that's what he thought. And you best believe these elites think they're gonna have their way, you know, with the prophets, man. Okay? And that's good. We'll see. You know, there are going to be martyrs, so, you know, that's going to be the scenario for certain believers. But that's not going to be the end-all, be-all. No, it's going to be a standard lifter. Esau going to have to deal with their standard. You know, he got to deal with their standard, and then he got to deal with Yahweh Shai, man. Okay? It said, David replied to the Philistine, you come to me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim al-Shai, of heaven's armies, the power of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today, the Lord will conquer you. Yahweh Bashim al-Shai will conquer you today. And I will kill you and cut off your head, and then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds of the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a power in Israel, man. So King David was speaking victory before the fight. You know, he didn't look at Goliath like everybody else looked at that nigga, man. Okay? He was looking through Goliath, man. Okay? He was talking about post-Goliath. You see? He said, the Lord finna beat you. I'm just a tool. The Lord finna whoop you, man. So we look at Esau, man, the Lord finna do Esau bad, man. You know, and we should be in the spirit of speaking the victory, living the victory, man. We get to serve Yahushua. Serve Yahushua, brothers. You know, make that the priority, man. Make that, hey, tap into serving Yahushua, man. Okay? People around you going to be mad. They're not going to understand. They're going to be all right, man. Embrace being the villain in this world, man. Okay? But we're going to be legends in the world to come. We'll be villains right now. Okay? And be legends in the world to come. Okay? Forever. So embrace that. Okay? You the villain because you serve Yahushua. Okay, that's the, all right. Make me an outfit, nigga. You see? So, yeah, just wanted to get into that, man, real quick. Didn't want to be too long. You know, speak victory, live victory, man. There's a victory in Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. You know, so Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you few sisters edified. You know, once again, want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Rakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom.